Today, I'm speaking with a fabulous entrepreneur. Natasha Miller just launched her book, Relentless, Homeless Teen to the Entrepreneur Dream, a story about her life, great insights. And she's also the CEO of Entire Production, a three-time Inc. 5000 recipient. And she has a lot of great ideas and a great insights to share with us. Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Business of Meeting podcast. And today I am absolutely thrilled to speak with a fabulous human being. She is 3 times in a row Inc. 5000. She's the CEO of Entire Production. She just came out with a book. She's in EO. I think that we're going to find out that she probably have a twin sister that she doesn't talk about because she's doing so many things. Ladies and gentlemen, Natasha Miller. Natasha, thank you so much for taking the time.
Hi, Eric. It's so nice to meet you, and it's my pleasure.
It's amazing, all the things you're doing. And, we're going to talk about all of this. And you have a absolutely unique story. So what is your story, Natasha?
My story was, back in the day, I grew up in the Midwest in Iowa in the mid 80s. And that was no fun. And but I learned how to play the violin at a young age. And then I became a vocalist, which is what my burning passion was. So music really saved my life and propelled me into my future. I had a full ride scholarship to college on the violin.
Wow.
And I had been doing entrepreneurial endeavors with music since I was 15. Started a core business, Entire Productions, which is an event and entertainment production company based in San Francisco. We work all over the world, but of course, most of our work is in the Bay Area because Salesforce, LinkedIn, Apple, Google, you just start reeling them all off, are here. So we get to do big events for them. And I have a 26-year-old daughter who I dote on, and she can't, she bears with it. I was going to say she can't stand me. That's not true. But and I love my life.
That's awesome. The only thing I think that I would add to the 80s, not fun. I can concur on many things with you, except for the music. I think that was the best decade.
Amazing. The Police, oh my gosh, so many. Don't even get me started. Yes, you're right. The best music.
I play a game with my daughter in the car. She goes on Spotify and then she plays 80s, and I have to find out the name of the song and the title.
Video killed the radio.
Yeah, that was the first one.
Yeah, MTV.
Yes.
Yeah. We are showing our age.
Exactly.
That's okay.
It's all good. It's all good. So you had a tough life, as you mentioned in your book. The title of your book is Relentless, Homeless Teen to Achieving the Entrepreneur Dream. So before we speak about the entrepreneur dream and all the great insights you have about that, how did it happen to be an homeless teen? And then how did you get into the meetings and event industry?
As this book just released yesterday, and I'm hearing people say the title of my book, I realized that a more appropriate tagline would be Abandoned Teen to Achieving the Entrepreneur Dream. I ended up in a youth shelter for homeless kids on Christmas Day when I was 16. And I stayed there for some time. And I think they were trying to get me to go to foster care. I would not have it. I was studying violin with a college professor at the time. And I had a lot of plans. And I didn't want to be uprooted from the center of where I was. So, I didn't have a home. And even when I did have a home, it wasn't my home, right? I wasn't treated well. I wasn't cared for, and I wasn't kept safe like you're supposed to be. And I found myself advocating for myself and making things happen for myself. But then you'd have to flash forward quite a bit of time to find out how I got into the meetings and event industry. And that was quite honestly just out of not being able to turn down work from people that were asking me to perform when I was already booked. So as a jazz vocalist and a violinist, if you were to call me and say, hey, can you play for my special event on Friday night? instead of saying, no, I'm sorry, I'm busy, I'm booked, I would say, I'm booked already, but I can bring in another group that's as good as I am. They're probably going to be a little better, and I'll manage them for you. And I had been doing that since I was a teen. I had to make a living since I was 16. Right. So that ultimately grew into me booking jazz and classical ensembles for special events, both corporate and social. And then it expanded to dance bands and DJs and aerialists and cigar bars. And then that also expanded into doing the planning from A to Z and not just being the one piece of the puzzle. So we now currently do both. Sometimes we only bring in entertainment and talent for an event that somebody else is planning. And sometimes we're planning the entire event and bringing in the talent.
I attended your book launch, which is absolutely spectacular in the metaverse and everything. And for the we're recording this on the 23rd of March so that people don't think that your book is already out by the time we published it. And you say something that resonated a lot with me. You said, I thought that I should wait for somebody, but nobody's coming. And I had to do it myself. And I think it's very true for all of us. Mm-hmm. And from the moment you realize that, then you can start making change in your life. Going back to when you were in this youth shelter, when did you really realize that? And did you have any mentor, any people that actually supported you along the way?
There weren't people supporting me with my personal issues at home and getting me onto a track that would have been good for me after I left the homeless shelter. I had to do that all myself. There were people supporting me as a musician. My conductor, Diane Pope, really supported me. My violin instructor, Dr. Beal. There were people that recognized some talents and gifts that I had, and they really helped me in that, that little element. But you're right. I realized, I'm not sure I knew it quite back then exactly, but no one is coming to save me. I wanted them to. I was waiting, begging, dreaming, hoping, praying, but no one was coming to save me. And the only person that could save me was myself. And I really did have it within myself to do. Now, I've been saving myself ever since, but that doesn't mean that I'm still hoping that somebody will help. Now, over, the last 20 years, I've then been able to look at people and realize that I need mentors and advisors and outside help to show me my blind spots and to give me a different perspective. And my world just cracked open when I started really seeking that out.
That's very good point, very good insight for us. When you were graduating from college in violin, and then you went to work into the music, I think I saw Grammys somewhere in your resume.
Well, let me back up. I never graduated from college. Okay. I went to 3 on full ride scholarships, but I ended up moving to San Francisco and not finishing my degree, which I have no problem with. I'm proud of what I've accomplished without a college degree.
Absolutely.
And then someone took me to the Grammys one year, and I had maybe 1 or 2 albums at that time, but I was pretty naive and pretty green and didn't really know what was going on. I didn't realize that I could actually become a voting member of the National Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences because of the releases that I was putting out. So after I went to the Grammys and saw the show, I realized that I could be a voting member of that organization that puts on the Grammys. So I've not won a Grammy. However, I am hoping to enter my Audible version of the book for consideration. There's pieces of a lot of songs that I've written and recorded over the 7 recordings that I have woven in through the entire Audible book.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And that would be a premiere, right?
Yes.
For the Grammys.
Well, they do give awards for audiobooks. But
I had no idea.
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
And, there's some people that have some music and some other things going on in Audible, not that many. So we'll see. Yes. Check back next year.
Well, your book in a few years might definitely be on Netflix as a movie or as a series.
Yeah, there have been people interested in optioning the rights to the story. So we'll see. You never know in Hollywood what's going to happen.
That's true. When you talk about the book now, and I know you cannot give out everything now today, but what 2 or 3 insights that you want to share with us that not only would entice people to buy your book, which I strongly recommend, but also that we can learn just listening to you today?
I wanted to make sure that this book for the reader swept you away and took you on a journey, took you on what would feel like almost a fictional read, right? You know, when you read fiction, you get lost in the story and it's like being in a movie. I wanted that for my reader. Now, everything in the book is my life, true life. I didn't make things up. And a memoir, of course, is my recollection of what happened, right? So other people may have different vantage points of, you know, the story I'm telling, but it truly is so I did not fictionalize it. I did change some names, just to be kind to, people that might not want their name in the book. So I would say it is definitely a good read. There's no doubt about it. And my story, what I've lived through, is very interesting. There's very high and very low inflection points. Someone had said, oh my God, this is like a roller coaster on steroids. And then another person followed that up by saying, a roller coaster, it's a whole amusement park. So looking at me, you don't see, visually a person that's just been through the ringer and like you can't imagine that this other horrible thing is happening to her, right? You don't see that. Well, you get to read about it in the book. And then also there's incredibly high inflection points, like really great things that I enjoyed, successes, goals met, things achieved, happiness, a satisfaction in my soul that has kind of calmed down. So if you just want a great read, that's one thing. Now, if you are an entrepreneur or you're someone who's really struggling to get from where you are now to where you want to be, or, there's so many different things that I'm going to be able to appeal to a good chunk of people. It's not for kids. Mm-hmm. I think, starting in the early teenage years, you can read it. It's not something that, I don't know, would it be rated R movie? Anyway, it's not a motivational, inspirational, like rah book, right? There's not a to-do list. There's not a checklist. There's not, okay, now everyone get out your pen and paper. We're going to make you do work. There's none of that. So I hope that gives you sort of an idea of what the book is. What I'm hearing from people is, everyone's busy with life and they crack the book open and just to appease themselves or me, they read the first line. And after that first line, they can't stop reading.
Wow.
That is, I think, something that is incredible. And thank God I put the section I did at the beginning because it will pull you in.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now you're talking about Entrepreneur Dream and also with EO, it's very high on values and with a lot of focus on values. How did you use values in general to lead in your company? Mm-hmm. And does that also answer the fact that you've been 3 years in a row on the Inc. 5000?
I mean, it all ties together. So we have 5 core values we really focus on. And the one that comes to mind that we talk about the most in my business is the pursuit of excellence. And more importantly, not perfection. So we're trying to, when we're talking to a client via email or via the phone, we're trying to be our most excellent version of ourselves, for ourselves, but also for the client. And then when we're creating an experience or an event for them, a million things are going to go wrong, a million little things. Okay, maybe not a million, a good amount. And then there's always one big thing that happens, right? But if you are excellent in your pursuit of making sure that that event goes off as well as it can, then you have the bandwidth to take care of those challenges that arise because you've taken care of dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's and not winging it. So excellence is number one, owning it. All my team are really self-managed. They don't need a middle manager going, did you do that run of show? Where's the timeline? That is not happening in my organization, which I'm really proud of. And I really give my team the ability to make decisions based on their own experience outside of my company, but also having watched me and make the decisions that they think would be the right ones. So there's that. Being scrappy is another core value. And being scrappy to me means, it's a shoestring budget, bootstrapped. We're not taking equity from someone else. We're not spending people's money in a frivolous way, right? We're also not being so frugal that it really affects the event, but we give an incredible amount of value. And that's really important to me. So that's 3 of the 5. And I think, I embody those as a human being in general. And it's something that my team probably does as well. But now that we've identified that, we keep that at top of mind.
Got it. And how do you recruit people based on those values? And how do you manage your company based on those values?
In the recruiting of people, that's a little more challenging because when you're recruiting and interviewing someone, they're putting on their face. We all have it. I'm going to put on right now I'm in my podcast interview face with you. If my daughter came over, we'd be rolling around in a bed with her dog and being goofy, right? Or, we all have a different place. So it's really hard to find out what somebody's true core values are because they want to say, if I say, do you believe in excellence and owning your own work and, being scrappy, what are they going to say? They're going to say, of course, absolutely. Right. And you don't know for sure. So it takes intuition, right? Gut experience, a gut reaction. It takes also experience. So I've been doing this for over 20 years. I have a little bit more information in order to make decisions, but I'm not always right. Okay. So you asked me about, and then how do I manage the team?
Right.
The team. So right now, I'm a visionary and a strategist for entire productions. I do not work in the business day to day with clients. I'm not solely responsible for marketing. I'm not solely responsible for sales at all. And I am responsible for managing the team, but they're so mature and self-managed, it's not a heavy lift. So I work about 15% of my time on my business. That kind of answers the question. The core values, if we're all living them, we don't need too much interference.
Absolutely. It wouldn't be the case if it was not like that. So kudos to you for that.
Yeah. And you saw for yourself what my team did. They didn't say, Natasha, what colors do you want? All the decor. How do you want things arranged? Yes, they passed some things by me, but they also knew they could make those decisions. I had very little to do with the production of that event yesterday, which was a pretty big deal.
I saw that. And also I saw something that I thought, wow, that's amazing. You can rely on your team. When there's a part of the agenda where you needed to speak introduction and you finish and you share what you wanted to share. And then you realize that, you're a little early. Yeah. You call on what's her name? Amber. Yeah. And boom, Amber was there. It was just like it was a cue, like it was planned.
It wasn't. I would have introduced her properly with a full introduction. And the truth is, now that I've looked at the replay, I'm not actually sure I was early. So I just screwed up, but my team had my back.
That's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. You're using obviously technology, but what can you say? What can you share? What are your advice for all the people in our industry when it comes to using technology to really boost revenue and profit? Because sometimes I feel like we're going to use technology because it's new, the buzz thing, it's fun. But at the end of the day, is it really helping to boost revenue and profit? So how do you align those?
I'm very technically interested and forward. I'm probably out of my entire team, the most technologically interested. And I think probably because I love it so much that it does, show an ROI. Like yesterday, we could have done that whole summit on Zoom, couldn't we have? And that's a technology, right? That's a big technology that we're all used to. It wasn't enough for me. And what happened with that summit is that the people that came there, now what is their idea of my value and my authority? It's much higher, isn't it? Right.
Absolutely.
And it's because we pressed, and it's also much harder to produce an event in Expo. You have to design everything. You have to place the furniture. There's technology and, having the caricaturists be able to see you and then sketch. And, it's more complicated. I had to put more time and energy into it, but it paid off.
Did you have more registration than you were hoping for because of that?
We had, I think because we teased it as, the people that came to that event were from so many different sectors, event industry, publishing industry, entrepreneurs, and we had a very good turnout. And people are tired of being on Zoom. So the way that we presented the event and teased it, we promised that they would be blown away. I remember I did an Instagram live and I said, I promise you will be blown away or your money back, except for it's free. But it's your time that you're giving me. And Absolutely. What is time? Time is money. So I knew for sure that there would not be one person in that event that would be like, this isn't any big deal.
No, absolutely. I was touring a little bit, came a little early. I was touring the place, although, again, I'm going to date myself, but I always prefer face-to-face. But I thought it was phenomenal what you did. And there was the main stage where you were speaking, but then there was different rooms. There was a VIP room. Then I get into the VIP room, and then I saw card reading or tarot. I don't know how you say in English. And I couldn't help but smile because years ago, I was doing a sales meeting and a product launch in Sardinia for a very large pharmaceutical company, a US-based company. And in the last evening, we had different booths, and we had 2 card readers. And I remember my client before going, really? Card readers? Nobody's going to do it. I said, nobody's going to do it until one person does it. Then
there's going to be a line out the door. And people will be pissed off if they don't get their turn.
Exactly. And it was like that. The first 15, 20 minutes, people were turning, and then one went. And boom, then you had the line and everybody was queuing there. That was funny. No, but very well done, absolutely, with using that technology. Are you working with external partners, or are you working with the same partners, or are you working with people internally when it comes to using technology?
So Expo, that was my team, producing and designing and making it all happen, with the exception of the switcher, the person that's like bringing people on and off stage. We allowed and utilized, and we're thankful that All Seated, the people that own that platform, provided their technical person. However, we do it ourselves for other clients. And sometimes we use third-party vendors to help us with like broadcast quality, studio, big virtual events. And there's also always strategic partners in planning both virtual and in-person events. But for the most part, we have everything in-house.
Awesome. You mentioned several points I think are extremely important. I always insist on that with the people I'm working with and I'm coaching when it comes to working on the business instead of in the business, and to grow your company. And you cannot be involved in the logistics all the time. You cannot be involved in, CEO smile, but we
I have no idea what's going on in my business, honestly. Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, everyone checks in the morning on Slack and at the end, and I do talk to them all day once in a while. Somebody was like, yeah, I'm working on this event in Miami and Atlanta. And I remember this was just either this morning or last night. I was thinking, what are we doing in Miami and Atlanta? The thing is I still don't know, and I don't need to know.
Correct.
And that is amazing.
Because you put the people and the process in place.
Yep.
And that's something that when we're preparing for this conversation, one of the point that you mentioned is that you can share about what it takes to run a 5 million ARR business. So ARR, annual recurrent revenue. I think you're going to be interesting a lot of people. How could you get annual recurrent revenue in the meetings and event industry, let alone 5 million of that?
Yes. We've been around for a long time. We're known and liked and trusted. We do over-the-top, incredible, bold events, and they're not flawless. There's no such thing, but they're as good as they could possibly get. And so we have recurring clients. We attract a lot of other people when they see our social media and, see the events. We're lucky that we have two divisions. So we have a lot of high volume with the artists and the talent and the entertainment that we put out. Mm-hmm. And then we have a smaller amount of volume of full production events, but they are much bigger budget, right? Because people spend plus or minus 10% of their budget on entertainment. And when those big numbers run through our company as pass through, right?
Yes.
If we're paying for the hotel or we're paying for the catering or the,
okay.
We
so
tend not two things. We try not to pass that through, and we try not to be the bank, for
right.
those huge numbers.
Yeah,
sometimes we do. So that's how.
I understand. So it's the total volume of pass through and everything, which is great. Now, for all the people that are starting their business or that have a one or two people company.
Yeah.
And I think it's by 2027 in the US, the number of freelancer would be high, will pass the 50% of people employed, which is mind-boggling. What are your advice, having been there, to grow the business when you start or when you have a one or two people company, to basically scale the business and start growing and working on your business instead of in your business?
Yeah, the two things that come to mind immediately, because it's not the same answer for everyone, depending on where you're at. One is make sure that you have your processes down so that they're very efficient. And so look at what you're doing. What is it that you do A to Z for an event and all the steps in between? And then you need to put that down in a manual. I would say on a piece of paper, but don't do that. Put it in your computer on a Google Doc or something. And then moreover, make a video explaining it. So then you aren't the person that has to train everybody as you scale and grow that company. Now, you have to have some interaction with them, but you can say, here's an overview of what you're about to learn, and then give them, the Google Doc and the training video, and not be the one doing it yourself. There's no need for that. So create those systems, make sure they're efficient. You have the processes all delineated. That's so important. I think that's the most important thing, is to know that you need systems and processes. Not only have them, make them efficient, but have them documented, and then tweak them as you grow and expand, because they will change as you add people to it, right? So that's number one. The number two thing is, if you're one person with one employee, is you've got to start thinking about how to delegate, how to get out of your brain what you think only you knows and that only you can do. I don't care what kind of entrepreneur you are not that special.
Amen.
And you don't need to be. And in fact, it's bad for your business for you to be the one with the lion's share of information in your head. It's actually, let me just put myself out on a limb. It's irresponsible to hold that. And a lot of people do that for ego. They want to be the big, guy that only they can answer, or they're afraid that no one can do it as well as they can. And they're right. No one is going to care or do it to the level that you're going to do. It's not always necessary.
Absolutely. I totally concur with you. I would add even a third setting, a third context, is when you deal with people within the company that are so insecure that they want to be aware of everything and don't trust anyone.
Okay.
Unfortunately, that exists.
Yeah. You have to be
Go
aware
ahead.
of your people. And I mean, this is going a little deeper, but as you get more people on board, if there are people that are not the right person doing the right thing, the right seat, right, the right button, the right seat with the capacity, they have to go. They have to go to where they have the capacity and the skill, or they have to leave your organization. Even if it's your sister or your husband or your best friend or someone that you've paid a recruiter for, they have to go. I did not learn that fast enough.
Hire fast, fire faster, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's sometimes easier said than done, but you're absolutely right. It's fascinating the number of circumstances when finally you ended up saying, okay, I'm going to stop with this person. And then everybody goes, finally, what took you so long?
Right. And if they have their professional face, they're not rolling their eyes and they're not like back talking. But it is also their responsibility, your team, to tell you when a person is impeding their progress or so my team knows I need to know what thing that they're doing repeatedly that's driving them crazy so that we can find a way to automate it. I need to know, is this person over here, whispering secrets? Now, my team doesn't do that right now, but they have in the past. There have been people that have definitely spoiled, the pot. And I'm sure they were just waiting around for me going, what is she doing? Right? They're not going to say that to me directly, although now they can. They know they can. But I'm sure there were people who are like, why is this person still here? Can't she see?
Natasha, you had a very interesting life. You have a very interesting life. You're going over a lot of challenges, keeping your energy or a smile. Where and how did you learn to thrive in spite of hardship? And what would you want to share with the people listening today?
I think I was so lucky that I didn't take my hardships and make them worse. I didn't take my hardships and turn to the negative things that a lot of people do when they're struggling: alcohol, drugs, running around, promiscuity. For some reason, I didn't turn to that. And if you have turned to that, you can turn around, right? There's so many people that have, it's not that easy. But I must have had a positive attitude, even when I was so sad and so depressed. And I really wasn't sure how I was going to get out of my rut. As I came out of it, I had this creativity. I had just insatiable thirst for learning. And I think, having that positive outlook. Now, once you get to a positive place, then you have to earmark that. You have to stamp that. That's a milestone. So that when the next thing happens that isn't so great, you know for sure, okay, this is going to pass. I'm going to not let it really affect me. And I'm going to go on to the next thing that I want to do instead of wallowing in the tragedy or the, deficit that's happening.
So you obviously have a lot of grit. And yesterday, if I remember well, you said that grit is not enough.
No, resilience is not enough.
Resilience is not enough.
Bouncing back, right? Every one of us has to be resilient. Now, there are some people that go down, the drain and then come back up and you're like, whoa, you're super resilient. That's really important. And we all should be resilient. We have to be. But then to get to where you want to go, that's how to get yourself out of where you don't want to be. But how to get to where you want to go, you have to be relentless. Getting that many people to my event yesterday wasn't sending out a couple of email blasts. It was me and my team asking people one by one to attend because we have over 10,000 messages that are hitting us every day. Nobody can see through the noise.
Right.
That's being relentless.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I could speak hours with you. Can't wait to read the book for sure. And let me ask you one last question for today. When we meet in 1 year with a bottle of champagne, What are we going to celebrate?
Okay. For me,
Yes.
first of all, I'll be celebrating that we're going to get to meet in person and not fear dying, hopefully. And we will celebrate all the things that I have no idea that will happen between now and then as a result of this book, as the result of my business, scaling and growing, as the result of me adding other businesses and other opportunities to my life. I think if you came tomorrow, we would have the same similar celebration. And you don't have to wait for the year to pass and all the things to accumulate. It's really appreciating what you have right now.
Awesome. Natasha, thank you so much. And I can't wait to meet you in real life, face to face.
It will happen. Thank you.
Natasha, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me and sharing your experience, great ideas, great demonstration of using technology when you launch your book. And I can't wait to meet you in person. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to reach out to me, please go on LinkedIn or join the Facebook group www.eventbusinessformula.com/group. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your network. Thank you.